Kenyan military says it has launched airstrikes on the forest hideout of Somali Islamists blamed for deadly attacks on civilians and security personnel. Heavily armed attackers have in the past 2 weeks beheaded 9 civilian men and killed 3 police officers in coastal Lamu district, which borders Somalia. Al-Shabaab Islamists claimed responsibility for the police killings. Kenyan police say the militants have used Bono Forest as a base for attacks in the region. Al-Shabaab is fighting to overthrow Somalia's Western-backed government and establish its own rule based on the group's strict interpretation of Islam's Sharia law. The Islamists frequently launch attacks on Kenyan soil, which they say are intended to force the country to withdraw its troops from Somalia. Kenyan troops form part of the African Union-mandated Amazon peacekeeping force defending Somalia's central government against Al-Shabaab. Meanwhile, government nurses' strike in Kenya has entered its 5th week, affecting medical services in many parts of the country. The 26,000-member Kenya National Union of Nurses is demanding that a deal to give them pay rises be signed and implemented. The deal was meant to have been signed by the union, the national government and county governments, but the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, which advises on public sector pay, rejected the deal. Analysts say the strike, which has led to patients being sent away from many government hospitals, is a headache for both national and county governments ahead of the elections on August the 8th.
The public and the nation and the country needs to know is that nurses are not out for the sake of it. Nurses negotiated for a collective bargaining agreement. If jailing the officials is what will realize the respect for this nation, for the nurses of this country, then so be it. The officials are ready to go to jail. The officials are ready to die for what they negotiated. Because if that is what will account the Kenyan nurses respect, then so be it. We are ready for anything, even to die, leave alone jailing, if that is what will give the nurses collective bargaining agreement.
We must be demonstrating here every Monday until and unless the CBA is signed, registered in court and implemented. That is the time we shall go back on duty. We are very much ready to go on duty because our patients are suffering, but the CBA had been concluded. Therefore, we don't need to renegotiate once again.
Over now to North Africa, where the Algerian Foreign Minister Abdelkader Messahil has called for the use of political means instead of military intervention to solve the crisis in Syria and Libya. He made the remarks on the sidelines of an international conference on the role of national reconciliation and moderation in the fight against terrorism held in Algiers. Mr. Messahil says Algeria's national reconciliation policy played a decisive role in ending a decade of serious internal disorders and terrorist attacks in the 1990s. He therefore believes this approach can be used to address other such conflicts, as military intervention, according to him, always brings chaos. Meanwhile, clashes continue between rival Libyan factions east of Tripoli, keeping the coastal roads shut and preventing residents from returning to their homes. The fighting began on Sunday when armed groups opposed to the UN-backed government in Tripoli tried to approach the capital and met resistance from rival groups that have aligned themselves with the government. It's the latest in a series of attacks by armed opponents of Government of National Accord, which have continued despite the GNA's attempts to win the cooperation of militias operating in the city and to calm bouts of violence inside or close to the capital. The Health Ministry later confirmed at least 4 people, including 2 foreign workers, have been killed and 21 others wounded over 2 days of fighting.